And we are live. Well, welcome on the Good Data Morning Show, a show about good data practices, good data management, good data governance, a lot of fun stuff, history, good learnings, best practices, right takeaways, and stories. A little bit of joking. Yeah, we're trying to offer some data-tainment, entertainment with data management. Thank you so much for joining us this morning or this afternoon, this evening. Let us know what time is it where you are. We are from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada on the West Coast. But tell us, where are you from? And, where would you wish you were right now? Kind of wish that we were on a beach somewhere. Wouldn't that be fun to have this show from the beach? Yeah. Anyhow, I digress as I usually do. Today we're going to talk about master data and master data management. Why is it important work? Diana here is going to tell us a little bit about the history of why do we call it master data in the first place. I thought that was, interesting, and I've often asked myself that, but I never looked it up, and Diana did a bit of research that she's going to share with us. So, but first, let's welcome some of you. Well, hello, hey, good to see you again.
Hi.
Hello, hi. Well, we have a lot of people here from a lot of different parts of the world. It's always a pleasure to see how many people are really chiming in, and how diverse the audience is, and where everybody is from.
And the data community in general.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the same things.
Same issues, same challenges. We're all trying to solve the same problems. And, I'm also hoping that some business people are going to join us as well to listen to this and take some of the learnings, of course. But also, today we have a very special guest on the show, Scott Taylor, the data whisperer. And yes, obviously he doesn't quite whisper, which I'm sure you already know. And if you don't know him already, then you are lucky to be here. So without further ado, let's welcome Scott to the show.
Welcome, Scott.
Welcome, Scott.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, George. Hi, Diana.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi, Scott.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I know you just finished your show, so thank you so much for jumping here.
The Good Data Morning Show. Yeah.
Bringing the truth on the Good Data Morning Show.
Bringing the truth. The reason I've been wearing these hats is because my hair is completely out of control. I have COVID. It's I have more hair now. I think probably the biggest hairdo I've had since high school. It's just out of control. The hat's on brand, that works, but you don't want to see what's that. It's just no.
I gotta take your advice on that and get a cap on my hair. No.
A cap. Okay, not your
hair.
haircut.
There you go. We can kind of slick yours back. I can really scare my kids by pretending I'm going to put it in a little bun. All I have to do is this. And they go, no. So
that would be the next level.
Anyway, how are you guys doing?
We're okay.
Kelly and Ryan, morning data shows too. You've got this nice rapport going on. Well,
thank you.
That works.
Thank you.
Are you more Kathy Lee and Regis? I guess it depends on which generation you want to focus on here. But
yeah, I don't know. Either works. Whatever resonates with the audience.
Either
right?
works. Either works.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we were just mentioning we're going to talk about master data with you. That you're quite the expert. You're quite a whisperer of master data. Diana was going to give us a little bit about history of why is it called master data. I don't know if you know the timbits, but why don't we start with that?
Yeah, it's very interesting actually.
Let's start with that. I'm happy to take some notes. Yeah.
I was reading this article by Keith Foote, and he was saying that before 1898, all the information was organized in those pigeonhole drawers, and everything was of course on paper, contracts, documents, and so on, but it was very hard to retrieve and very hard to find when they needed it. And then in 1898 someone invented those lateral files.
The file cabinets.
No, the lateral ones. So just, you were seeing those ones. And then you could retrieve very easily a file that you needed. And there are these master files, and in the master files there were different documents, and that's where the name of master file comes from.
Wow. Okay.
And of course, they were containing all these, that stable information that doesn't change about customers, about products, about locations, and so on. And then this turned later into something digital, but that's where it comes from.
Right.
Okay.
1898. All right. Putting
That's-
that date down there. I guess we missed the 100th anniversary of.
I wish data retrieval was as easy now as it was 100 years ago. Just picking up the file with the data that he wanted to.
Yeah. You just just go over here and just pull it right out. Give me the file here. So
Right.
Oh, that's great. Which proves a lot of the observations I have, because data's been around since before there were computers.
Mm-hmm.
Data's been around since before there was electricity. Data's been there. So if you go all the way back to 1089, I guess 800 years before that.
Yeah.
The Doomsday Book, William the Conqueror, right? So they just got 1089, so they just finished digging themselves out of that Y1K problem. That was a big problem, believe me. You thought 2K was bad. How about 1K? That was a huge problem. And William the Conqueror decided to create this Doomsday Book where he wanted to track everybody and everything everyone owned. It was for taxes and kind of census, but a really early comprehensive database, as we might call it today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they had unique identifiers, but I know they had categorizations, they had hierarchy in there. And again, even just because it's on paper and somebody wrote it with their hand doesn't mean it's not data. So
exactly.
Data's been around a lot longer than any software. Ha ha ha.
And Kunal, yes, we're talking about master data. Yes, master data, and it's important. Master data management, of course. But Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you whispering about? What's your location there?
I asked George. I call George the orchid whisperer because he revives the orchids in the house. And I wanted to ask you,
nice.
If he revives the orchids, what do you do as a data whisperer?
I kind of take it from more of the kind of taming angle, like calming data down. So data is unruly, it's big, it's unstructured, it's a mess, it's dirty, it's corrupt. It's got to get calmed down. And data mastering, data management, data governance helps calm data down. And then I've also kind of expanded it to help calm people down about data because they get a little aggravated and agitated and befuddled and confused, especially on the business side. So all that kind of wraps up, for a fairly light moniker, because as George knows, I don't actually do this work. I just talk about it. That's my role in the space, is to help people explain it better. So if they want to tell it, sell it, yell it, whatever it happens to be, around the strategic importance and the value of highly structured, well-governed, expertly stewarded master data content. So,
and you're very good at
focused on that.
If people
I keep trying.
If people haven't watched you yet, I encourage them to do so. Go check out his YouTube channel. Definitely follow him on LinkedIn. Check out his what was it? The 8 8s, the Master 8s, the 12 days of data. The what was it? That data superhero one, the Data Puppets show. So many,
That's
plus all the conference talks, and definitely book him as a speaker if you can.
Yes, and to that point, I really appreciate Scott, and I always say I come from the business side. I'm not a data person. You make data very understandable for me. So I have a good idea of data when I watch your videos. And of course, my favorite video, which I encourage everyone to see, is the too much tech talk, and I with the ITV and the
CDO,
the Chief Dog Officer. It's an absolute must. It's so entertaining and it's so insightful. I love it. ITV is my favorite character.
Wonderful. Oh, good. Oh, just keep talking. I'm having a ball here too. So now you understand. Do I help you understand what George does now? What he's talking about? So now
exactly.
Yes.
We met. I reciprocate here. The way I met George was by watching one of his videos, and just went, "This guy makes a ton of sense. He explains it really clearly." I agree with all these. I think it was like the top 10 things you should be doing in data governance. It was one of your high
Right.
level.
Yeah. It
And
was
I think
one of my first videos.
I shared it out. I went, if you're not doing like all of these, then what's wrong with you? So you couldn't argue with any of them. So you should be doing at least 5 or 8 or whatever it was. But they were all really reasonable, really accessible, and also extremely important for anybody trying to put a data governance program together. So,
Absolutely.
On our mutual admiration society that we got going on here.
Listen, Kunal is saying that, yes, he's been operating in data science, machine learning, AI training domain. Will this session help us in the mentioned domains? I think so. I mean, master data, data governance, data management, of course, they're at the basis. You can't do any of these things without having this proper foundation in place. So yes, master data is important. And you're working with master data. You need to, because you're developing models about master data. So it's definitely very, very important, of course. And let's put the question out there. How important is master data? How important do you think it is? And we definitely have stories of, personal stories even on how it has affected me negatively. I remember this was a few years ago. So I'm originally from Romania. Well, we both are. But, and I have a Romanian passport that has now expired. On one of my vacation trips back home, I was going to the passport office to renew it. I stand in a line for a couple of hours, fill out all that paperwork, go to the, lady at the till, and, she was starting to process it. She's like, okay, I can't do it because you need a local ID. So I said, well, I'm not a resident, though. I can't give you a local ID anymore. I've left the country years ago. I can't give you one. It's like, well, no, in our database, it says that you're still living in Romania. You got to go to the police station and get some sort of an ID certification, something from there to show us that you're not. So, pack up all my stuff, go to the police station, another line up there. Next day, I go in and they're like, well, no, in our database, it shows that you've left the country years ago, so we can give you an ID. So that is master data gone wrong. So definitely, people.
Absolutely. It hits us every day. Hits us every day, everywhere. And it's, how important is it? So I will say it's the most important data any organization has. The gentleman who was asking about data science, machine learning, AI, if you're still watching here, we're not going to talk about those directly, but we're going to talk about the ingredients you need to make those work. So successful AI only happens if you've got proper data going into it. Now, we might as well just get GIGO out of the way, garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But that's an inescapable fact. That's
Absolutely.
That's as sure as gravity that, what goes up must come down, what goes in must come out. So it's we're not going to talk about Python or R or, SQL, NoSQL, all that kind of stuff. That's just things you do with data. But you've got to have the foundational data piece parts. And any data scientist out there watching, you talk a lot about how you have to do all this munging and wrangling. Mm-hmm. Go introduce yourself to your data governance people in your own organization. They're there. So if you work for an enterprise, you've got data managers, you've got a data governance group, you've got a data management group, go talk to them. It's not going to get rid of all your munging and wrangling, but if you're trying to figure out customer segmentation or you're looking at a blank screen trying to unduplicate things, there's probably better data somewhere for you to start working with. So this is a current kick I'm on where I'm trying to encourage the data science community to more actively and, even aggressively collaborate with the data management community. There's some bridges there that we can help build.
I agree.
Because it's only going to help every organization.
And of course, part of the tripod would also be the business. They need to be actively involved in all of these discussions on all these different areas. And, Kunal is replying back, what a great way to explain with storytelling. Kudos, loved your explanation. Well, thank you. So I hope it's worthwhile.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
This is what we train for. Right here, looking at it.
And you know what? Sorry, I'm going to plug this in, Scott, but you have a conference coming up in September, towards the end of September, about it's a master data marathon that you're going to lead for 24 hours straight. And there are going to be a lot of different topics, supporting or addressing master data management.
Yeah, and you're joining us on the agenda.
I am, yes.
That's good. Yeah, and the Think Link. ThinkLinkers group and are putting this on. I'm just kind of the host, and I'll be leading it along for the agenda. And as George says, I'm hopefully up for 24 hours in a row, by the way. I just found out it's in a row. Uh-oh. But we're going to have, representation globally, which is wonderful. They usually put on these really high-end, super premium conferences in this great hotel in Berlin. I tease them about it. I said, it's the only conference I go to where at lunch you get 8 pieces of silverware. It's usually, reserved for a wedding. So super fancy kind of conference. They're bringing it out to the masses. Mm-hmm. There's a 30% off ticket bonus going on right now. MDM30 is the promo code. Just put that in. But look for ThinkLinkers MDM Master Data Marathon. 24 hours, one people, one world, one data. George is going to be on there. We got practitioners from all over the world. We got these experts like George. I keep mentioning it. Well, it's his show. But part of, he's a practitioner in his own right, but also sees and talks to a lot of different companies. And so we'll have this great perspective. And no matter what, it's all going to come back to, spoiler alert, it's all going to come back to the same thing. No matter what you're trying to do in your business, no matter where it's trying to go, things like master data are macro trend agnostic. Don't wait. You got to do it now. And hopefully we'll give you a lot of practical advice, a lot of strategic insight on how to get it done. Absolutely. Do you recommend to have a data governance team? Yes. These are yes or no question. Yes. Next question.
And you know what? That's a good lead into my question. Should MDM, master data management, or data governance be implemented first? And that's a bit of a trick question. But let me know. Actually, it's not a trick question. Just let me know, what do you think? What have you done? And
if you're asking, the rest of the group out there, for me, it's like doing both. I don't really that gets deeper than my expertise. So I kind of live at the, you should be doing this. Right? Here's why it's important to the business. I'm more the why than the how. And even though that might be a really simple question, I could say one and a million people go, no, it's the other one. So I don't try to get into that kind of part of the debate.
Yes.
But
absolutely. See, I agree. I mean, the trick part of it is, yes, you do need to do both. I don't think you need to choose one over the other. If possible, do try and implement a bit of both at the same time. They're both really two sides of the same coin, so to speak. So it's definitely important.
I mean, my view is master data. The reason I like to focus on master data a lot, master data, reference data, metadata, is I think those are tangible outputs of a good data governance program. So I don't know how you can say you have great data governance if your master data sucks. So when people talk about data as an asset, meaning it's got this tangible nature to it, if you can see good master data, you can see it in reports, you can see it in the ease of integration, you can see it in terms of how it enables all these other strategic initiatives. So it's not a theory. It's not, MDM's a journey, but master data is a defined asset, and it is that tangible output from a good data governance program. If you don't have good data, it represents how good your data governance program is my feeling.
Absolutely. It provides those policies, those processes, those clear rules and responsibilities, standards that need to be followed by data in order to have and achieve good master data. We have an interesting question here. Can you throw some light on business concerned with budgets of MDM but missing the impact of not having an efficient MDM in place and the cost of that? How would you advise to quantify something like it?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a lengthy question. Really, it's definitely a challenge that I think a lot of organizations are facing right now. The fact that they kind of want to invest in master data management, but they don't see that business impact right away, and it's hard in a way to gauge what you don't have. It's those missed opportunities, and that's what you're getting when you do have good master data in place. You're really able to get more insights. You get that 360 view of your customer, whereas before you can't. So it's so hard to say, well, if we were to have that, we will be actually saving so much money. It's easier once you achieve it to trace it back and say, this is how much money we've saved, than try and forecast that saving. But it's still possible. It's still doable. I do recommend chatting with organizations that do it better, and professionals like myself, Scott, others in the industry, of course, definitely join the Master Data Marathon to take some good learnings from there. But it's, yes, I feel you. I feel your pain of especially not having that efficient MDM in place. And you know what? It's the efficient MDM, like Scott mentioned, it's a journey, right? So it's not something that you're gonna implement once and hey, it's gonna be done for the rest of your career. You're gonna have to keep on investing into it. That's why it's a program. Because why? A new system will come in, new requirements will come in, a new master data category will jump into place there that you need to manage. So it's always going to keep on going, that you need to keep on investing into it and have those professionals talk to one another, solve all these issues. Yes.
I find it's very hard. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Again, from the business side, I wanted to say that I find it very hard to create a business case for data, because usually the results are, first of all, hard to anticipate and also to measure, and they're also not direct results on a person. They're usually longer term, they're indirect.
They're longer term, yeah.
And then for the people that are not necessarily working with the data or in the data, let's say, functions, they don't see the impact right away, and they don't see the priority. And I think this is very important for what you do, Scott, to communicate to those people, to make them understand, okay, this is how this impacts you. This is what is in it for you. And here is where the challenge actually.
And that's the mistake that a lot of people make, that when they talk about, with the business, with the people sponsoring and providing the money, they talk about data, and they don't get it, right? But you're coming in, Scott, with the message of, well, why is this important to the business? Let's look at it from a business perspective.
Yes, and talk about it in a...
I mean, my thing is, the business case for data, the business case for master data is the very business you are in. I know that's hard to put like sort of a ROI on directly, but if you believe data can help your organization, then you need master data to be able to make that data help your organization. It just will not work at any form of scale. So the only qualifier I'll put on it is, if you're a business that doesn't want to scale, then fine, you don't need it. But what business doesn't want to try and do what they're doing at some form of scale? Scale takes technology. Technology, the fuel for technology is data. If you have data, you need data management. Next question. But it's like, I always come back to that and feel like that's a really strong linear connection between where the business wants to go and the data you need to get there. And the comment you had earlier about how you start to quantify it, and we need efficient MDM. Yeah, MDM only use case is oxymoronic with an accent on the moronic. There's no such thing. It's an innate. It does all the other things that an organization does. So you've got to have that fuel, the backbone, foundation, whatever analogy you want to use. But even if you look at the poetry people use about master data, they use these really strong images. It's a linchpin, it's the axle, it's the fuel, it's the currency, it's the ingredients, it's the foundation. It's, they don't talk about how it's like a bell and whistle and a nice add-on and we're going to do it later. So use that terminology in your organization when you're trying to sell this thing in, when you're trying to, and selling can be get funding. Selling can be get stakeholder engagement. Selling can be making sure the business does their part in the data ownership and data stewardship that they've been assigned. Why is this all important? And it's hard. We get it. It's hard. If you're out there and struggling with this, you're not alone. That's why we spend so much time helping people talk about it, because we've got to get the message out there. You already know it, right? I talk to people all the time. They get it. Yeah, of course, I understand it. Just my organization doesn't believe me. That's the leap we're trying to help you make. That's the gap we're trying to help you fill.
Right. And we have a comment here from Ravid. Sorry, I'm late to the party. No problem. Better late than never. Quick question: how did you come up with MDM as a name,
I didn't
Scott?
come up with MDM. That's not my name.
There you go,
Yeah.
Scott. You're a synonym now. You're seen
That's
as
not my
the
name.
father of MDM.
The guru.
Yeah.
I
Rabbit.
worked with a company. Yeah, we didn't come up with that term. It's an existing term, master data management. It already existed there. But I worked for a company that was I was trying to help them get their master data story straight. I was working there full time. I won't mention their name, but their initials are D and B. So, and the marketing, and I was trying to show them that what they actually delivered was master data. So if you know Dun & Bradstreet, they've got unique identifiers, they've got hierarchies, they've got classifications, they've got sort of reference content about every, 300 million companies on Earth. And that's used as master data content by a lot of organizations. The marketing department, when I was there, and this was a couple years ago, I said, you have to call this master data. And they said, we don't like your name for that. Can you come up with another name? It's like, it's not my name. I'm not, I'm identifying what it is. I'm not naming it. I'm giving you the right identification, okay? And it's like, oh, we don't like that word, Atlantic Ocean. Can you come up with another name for it? It's not my name. We didn't invent this.
What?
So long-winded story to say these are existing set of terminology in the business. Yeah.
I worked with, was on this project with this company, and they did not enjoy the data governance keyword there. Like, no, we don't like data governance. We don't like the governance term in it. It's just we're getting antsy. So, bottom line, they started calling it a data quality management, data quality program, when in fact, yes, that was one of the main outcomes and benefits of having it, but we were actually doing data governance and establishing a data governance council, but it just wasn't called as such. So, I mean, name is not as important, though. Why change things when that's what they're called? But anyways, I get it. People have their preferences, and if they're feeling adverse about something,
I can kind of debate on that all day long too. It's kind of like, there's existing names. There's such, froth going on in our greater space. You look at LinkedIn, every day, and somebody's come up with a brand new term because there's value in trying to coin a new phrase, get a new twist of a term. And when they come up and I think they're ridiculous, I, put my 2 cents in there, because I feel like the last thing we need is more terminology to confuse the business people about what we're trying to do. And so that's my resistance to it. It's not about, trying to tamp down creativity for anybody, or, if you have a truly unique offering or a truly brand new concept that's been discovered. What's the latest one I saw? Somebody was talking about how they're taking AI and putting it with the IoT, right? And so their name for it was AIoT. Okay, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. What's the I stand for? Which one? And the response I got back was, well, what do you think? I said, it's not my opinion. I'm asking you. I didn't come up with this terminology. I don't think you should make up the terminology. I think AI is already in the IoT. But what does that I stand for? If you want, the reason people come up with this stuff is to make it easier for somebody else to understand it. That's the whole point. It's not a puzzle.
Absolutely.
It's not some sort of rubric that people are trying to. It's like, okay, it's a shortcut to understanding. So if your terminology doesn't allow somebody to understand it more quickly, then I don't see the purpose of it.
Exactly. Hey, Scott, we just have one more question here that I want to address, and then I think we need to wrap it up because we're closing our timeline here. So Vera is asking, how do you convince the lines of business to participate on enterprise initiatives like creating a product master? And I'll give you my answer on it, Vera. I think really you need to address what's in it for them, right? Find out those stories, those pain points that they're facing right now by not having this product master, and try and relay that to them. I know maybe it's sort of a consultant type answer that it's short, but we only have so much time to address it. I don't know if, Scott, if you did want to add anything here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're separate lines of business, do you have customers buying from multiple lines of business? So if you have customers buying from multiple lines of business, I don't know what company you're from, but that happens a lot. And your customers get frustrated because any individual salesperson doesn't understand the portfolio of services that they are buying from you. And customers get really frustrated with that. So I would suspect that there's probably some product rationalization opportunities, some product nomenclature opportunities across your different lines of business that you want to pull all that together in a unified, highly structured, consistently standardized way. And if you're moving into e-commerce, you're going to need that content anyway. So short answer, but I bet your customers don't like
Thank you.
it. Is my quick answer. That's why you should do it.
Absolutely.
Talking about customers, I just have a short example here. Yeah, we're almost done. I'm going to be very short. So for example, as a patient in different hospitals and going to different healthcare providers, it's very useful when you see that there's a centralized system that communicates to all of these healthcare providers so that you don't need to put in the same information over and over again, and that the doctor sees your history. And by experiencing this transition, at least here in Vancouver, in Vancouver, it's a huge difference in patient experience and also in the results ultimately. So I think this is a great
less chance of error and mistakes, misdiagnostic. Yeah.
Exactly. And
then and who doesn't get frustrated when you get. You go to a new doctor's office, go to your same doctor and they hand you another clipboard and you got to fill out this form again. You're like, didn't I do this 12 times already? Same thing.
Exactly.
So customer, that experience that you want. Do you know me, right? Do you have my identity? Have you codified our relationship in some way so you understand I exist, first of all, and then what I like. But you can't help me with what I like until you know I exist. And really get sort of deeply philosophical almost, or maybe shallowly philosophical, but just that concept is so important in the data space, in identity resolution, and authenticated identity, all the rest of it. And that's where we start. Does a thing exist or not? Start there. So anyway.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for being on the show. And
for 2 hours. So sorry, interrupt.
or 24 hours.
Or 24 hours, yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you everybody for watching, tuning in. Of course, this will be on YouTube as well in a couple of days, and just come in next week as well, as we're going to have our next guest, and we're going to talk about other interesting data topics. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Have a good data week.
Bye everyone.
Bye.